Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always. And today we are joined by John Horn, CEO of StubGroup, a top 1% premier Google partner ranked by Google for elite performance and care. With over a decade of digital ad expertise, John leads a team managing campaigns for brands ranging from public companies to local businesses. He's taught over 100,000 students, speaks regularly on top podcasts like this one, and writes for industry leaders like Forbes and Data FeedWatch. John's passion is turning paid traffic into profit by blending automation with smart technology. If it involves PPC, John's in. If it drives growth, he's already testing it. So I've asked John to join us here today to share his story and insights into profitable paid advertising. So John, thank you so much for joining us today, my friend. How you doing?
Daryl, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, and it's an honor and pleasure to have you here. I always like chopping up, talking about paid ads because the powerful thing that a lot of people don't realize about paid ads is, in my opinion, it's what separates a small local mom and pop store from a nationwide brand. And it's because for a lot of people, when you talk to them, they're like, oh, I get word of mouth and referrals and, I build my reputation. Whereas with paid advertising, if it works, you just decide, I want to go get 300 customers and you just go buy them up until you actually start to hit the edges of the available marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, really, paid advertising is a way to scale in ways that most other marketing channels just don't provide. It gives you the control of saying, okay, like you said, I want to go and get more customers. I'm going to invest ad spend into making that happen. And it doesn't replace other channels. Obviously, word of mouth is fantastic, organic is fantastic, but there's only so much control you have over those channels, and there's only so much speed with which those will grow. And so, yeah, paid is a way that many businesses use to scale and grow and drive a significant portion of their revenue.
And is this something your parents were into and you're just carrying the torch? Were your parents into paid advertising and you were just growing up like ROAS, CTR? Like were you just like those kind of baby John's first words or what?
Not so much. So my dad was kind of in the entrepreneurial frame in a way, in that he was a lawyer and he had his own practice,
Hmm.
but he was not, I wouldn't so much call him a businessman. He was a great lawyer and he happened to have a business because he was in practice for himself. But really, the entrepreneurial side of things, I would say I got to learn a lot from my brother. I have an older brother who actually is one of the team members who started StubGroup back in the day. And I came along with him kind of as part of that. And we've been doing this for a long time now. But yeah, that's kind of the family connection to entrepreneurship. I'd say more came through him.
Got it. How did you get into this then? I guess I'm wondering, your brother brought you in and you did some training or he just threw you in and it was trial by fire? Kind of what was it like coming into
Yeah,
this?
so really, we started group over a decade ago, and it was at this time where digital advertising was not new, but it was still very much new to many businesses. And many businesses are making that change from more traditional advertising over to this digital world and realizing that that is where their customers were spending their time in finding solutions. And so really we started Stub Group seeing this opportunity. There's so many businesses who need to use digital advertising and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to do it effectively. They don't know how to get good ROI, et cetera. And so we said, there's opportunity. We're going to figure this out. And so we jumped in and figured it out. We ran our own advertising campaigns to get our own clients. And we learned by trial by fire, working with clients, figuring out strategies. And then over time, building expertise, building tool sets, and growing our team, bringing other team members on board who are great at this as well.
And so what are some of the biggest lessons? Because, I speak for this from paid ads is simple to understand. Like you run some ads and you make an offer and you target people, but it can be incredibly difficult to do profitably. It's a very simple concept to explain. You can write on a napkin, people like, I get it. But to actually do it profitably is part of why not so many people do it. And I know people that have thought, listen, I got this $10,000 budget, you know what? And by the end of it, I'll have something that works. And you can spend $10,000 and still be at square one. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like why does that happen?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. I think a lot of businesses look at paid advertising as a magic bullet. It's a little bit of a black box to them, and they feel like, hey, I'm going to throw money in here and I'm going to make a bunch of money out of it, and it's just going to work and be fantastic. And that's not how advertising works. I've often heard of advertising described as fuel for a fire. And if you have a good foundation, you have an offer that people are interested in that's compelling, you have the infrastructure in place to actually provide the service that you're selling, to handle the leads that you're driving, to give a good experience to people. So they leave good reviews, which builds your reputation and so forth. Then advertising can be incredibly effective at being that fuel on that fire to help grow your business. But if you don't have those important aspects of just running a good business and you're just saying, okay, ads are going to do everything for me, I'm just going to spend money on Facebook or Google, whatever, and that's going to make me tons of money, that doesn't work. You're going to get crushed by competitors who are running good businesses and who can, afford to acquire customers because those customers are going to stay with them for the lifetime. There's value there, etc. And
Hmm.
so I think that's probably the biggest mistake that I see a lot of advertisers make when they go into paid advertising.
I love that. So I want to dive into it a little bit. You mentioned a key term, lifetime, and afford to acquire, I'm just going to say to buy customers. And you've obviously, this isn't a slave trade. We're not buying people, but you're buying the opportunity to stand in front of people, get their attention and make your offer, right? You're basically
Exactly.
you check. And I know that a lot of people, they think traffic is sexy. Oh, I got this many web visits. I've seen people get 1 million impressions and have zero, 1 million times zero. It's still zero. So
Right.
you mentioned that I think are really important to expand on for people that are in this is just some of the fundamentals. One, you mentioned the lifetime for like lifetime value. So what he's saying is you have to know what a customer is worth for you because it is often they say that the number thrown around is 5 times more expensive to get a new customer than to keep an existing one. So that means if your
Mhm.
business is dependent on first time, one time only sales, it's going to be a tougher slog than if you're getting people that stick with you for 3 to 5 years because now you can make more money. You can lose money on the first sale if you even and just make it. If I knew I was going to spend 5 grand today and in 12 months it was going to turn into $15,000, I would just have to be patient and manage my cash flow, so to speak. So that's an important one. You also mentioned good reviews. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like, is it the power of the offer? Like, what's changed? Because it used to be very linear. It used to be ad, and then they go here, and then they take this action. And I think Google had a point like this. What was it? The moment of what was it? The zero instance. I forget what it's called now.
Now you're talking about, I also forget the exact term.
Yeah, but it was like the 0 point moment, which was the person
Yeah.
decided to buy, and that it was actually more circular now than just linear. Can you speak to that a little
Yeah.
bit?
Yeah, circular is a great way to describe the customer journey, fragmented as well. It's very much, people generally speaking don't just see an ad or an organic result or whatever it is and immediately take the action you want them to take. Now, it's certainly if you're selling something super cheap or you have very low friction, there's going to be more of that than if you're selling something that has a higher price point and more pain involved. But at the end of the day, people I would say are smarter about using the internet on average than they used to be. And reputation's a big thing. Most people have had bad experiences with companies on the internet. They've ordered something that never came to them. They've been scammed. They've had bad customer service, whatever the case may be. And so many people, before they trust someone, whether it be purchasing a product, signing up for a service, whatever it may be, they're going to research you. They're going to see what are other people saying about you. And reviews play a very, very important role in that because obviously, if someone starts looking for you and they're seeing people have bad experiences working with you, then that's going to scare away a lot of people. On the contrary, if they see great experiences, lots of reviews, 5 stars, etc., then that's a great reinforcer of why they should work with you. And so, reputation management is really important. And of course, actually putting in the hard work and delivering a great service and a great product that makes people want to give you positive reviews online is incredibly important. And then that builds on itself. And it's a virtuous cycle, so to speak.
Let's say I've got a great product. I've had a couple hundred people buy it, but I've fumbled the ball on getting reviews, and I come to you. Where would you tell me as a newbie starting out?
So
Some
I'd
people.
say you still have a lot of opportunities with those couple hundred people you've been working with where we can go to them and just ask. Most people don't leave the review unless you ask in some way. And so just go do it, go ask. And you'll be surprised how many people be like, yeah, absolutely. And there's creative strategies as well. For example, let's say you're in the service industry. Something I've seen that works well could be, hey, tying it to the actual person they worked with. It's like, hey, we're giving Bill $10 gift card for every review that a client leaves who works with him, things like that, to encourage and incentivize clients. Be like, oh yeah, that was great. I want to do something nice for him. Cool. Let me leave a review. So that's incredibly, I would say, helpful, but very, very effective at getting reviews is just asking, and then building in a process moving forward where you are routinely asking for reviews and then figuring out when's the best place to do it. If you're a plumber, equipping your plumbers when you're out on the job site, right after you solve their pain point. Hey, here's my phone. Could you leave us a review right now? Give us 5 stars, that kind of thing. Like, where's the closest to solving the pain point possible to ask for that review? And then have follow-up sequence in place too, where if they don't give it to you right away, great. Well, let me ask them a couple days from now, a week from now, and that just dramatically increases the percentage of your customers who will actually leave you a review.
I love that. Now, I guess, are all reviews created equal? And I mean that in the terms of, because different people, some people have a Shopify store, some people have a brick and mortar business, some people have an Etsy store, or some people are on Yelp, or some people aren't on any of those and they're hosting their own stuff. So my question is, are all reviews created equal? If you're not, like, one is Google Maps, your Google business profile, those reviews king, or Yelp reviews king? What do you do? And even how does Google look at that? Like, if you're putting screenshots, you see that sometimes people put screenshots of social media conversations they've had. Are all reviews created equal? What do you say to that? How do you approach that?
Yeah, there are definitely some review platforms that Google likes more than others and is going to rank more than others. Google loves Google. So you mentioned Google Maps. That is a great place to get reviews. They call it now the Google Business Profile. And often that's going to come up on the right side of the screen if you're on computer, or, in part of the maps if you're on mobile. And Google's going to feature those reviews that they're collecting about you. And that's also going to help, especially if you're a local business and you're trying to get your Google Business Profile to rank when people search. Reviews are a tremendously important ranking signal. That's a great, great place to get reviews. And then just, see what are the other places that are coming up. What are the other platforms that come up when someone Googles you and competitors? In some industries, you might be, oh, you know what? Yelp comes up really high. And actually, over the last couple of months, we've seen a dramatic increase in Google crawling Yelp. And Yelp is number one for a lot of businesses right now when you search for their name plus reviews. So if you're seeing that, great, let's get some on Yelp. If you're seeing Trustpilot or Better Business Bureau, whatever it may be, great. It's already ranking. So let's go and get more reviews from those places. And then I would also say video reviews are fantastic. They're much harder to get because it takes more work and more vulnerability for a customer to give you a video review. But getting some great video reviews to then feature on your website, on your YouTube channel, that is fantastic. I mean, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a video is 1,000 images. So how much of an impact that can have.
Would audio interviews for people that can't get video, does audio up there too, or is it just text or video would be better?
I would say it's very rare that I see audio testimonials. It's almost always either the video or the text. And I would say there's nothing wrong with audio, but I would potentially say people are so accustomed to video now that some people might look at it as a little weird to be like, wait, you've got an audio file, but not a video. So I might be a little bit hesitant to focus on the audio side of things. I would say video and text are the places I would really spend my time.
I love that. Now, I want to go back to people that are starting out and struggling. I mean, there's two different camps, right? There's the people that are doing it a lot. And obviously, when you're a premier certified by Google and as a premier agency, oftentimes, and I think we talked about this before, there's people that are already doing it. And it's almost like they're intermediate, but they hit snags. And that's when they really need an expert to step in. And then there's the newbies that are just kind of trying to get their feet wet and get up and running and get some scale. And I'd like to talk about kind of both of those. Maybe let's talk about the big fish first, in terms of when someone's already running Google and they come to you, what do they need you for? If they figured out Google, why bother working with you?
I'd say there's two primary reasons for someone who, like you're describing, they kind of know the platform, they've been doing it for a while, they're running things. So one is time. Often, let's say it's a business owner and they've been running their ads for a while and they've got it figured out, but they're a business owner. They don't want to spend half their day managing Google ads. They've got to actually run their business and fulfill the service. And so it's a matter of trusting someone who knows what they're doing and giving time back to the business owner to go do higher ROI activities. So that'd be one thing. And then the second thing would be what you mentioned, trying to scale beyond where they're at. So one of the advantages of an agency is that, we get to see what's working well across tons of different accounts, tons of different clients. And so if you're just working for one business, let's say you're an in-house PPC manager, all you know is what's working or not working in your account. You don't know, should I try this campaign type or that campaign type, or, oh, this is a strategy I've never tried before. And anything you do try in your account, you take all the risk in your one account of testing it. Whereas we might have been like, hey, we've tested this in 5 other accounts and it's working great because those clients wanted us to test it. They're excited about new stuff. Awesome. Let's roll this out for your account. And you are benefiting from the testing we've done for these other clients. And so we're often able to help scale beyond maybe a plateau someone's reached, or really make their advertising strategy more sophisticated through integrating offline data into their advertising, taking their tracking to the next level, and thereby taking their performance to the next level.
I love that. Yeah, okay. So that makes sense. Can you just, for people that, and now maybe this is a good pivot to the newbies or even people that are there, why can't you just spend more money? I mean, if it's working, don't you just go Google, oh, you made me money. I spent $5,000 last month. Here's $10,000. Doesn't it just work like that? Can you just spend more money? And why doesn't it, if it doesn't work like that?
Yeah. It's a fantastic question. And Google generally is happy to take that money. Generally, you can spend that money.
You'll happily take it. And yeah, I'll let you.
Exactly. Yeah. The problem is, as with all advertising, it's that funnel often where, hey, let's say you're spending $5,000 and let's say hopefully you figured out your best keywords, your best traffic source. And so they're converting at a certain rate. You're making tons of money. It's profitable. Fantastic. Well, there's only so many people that are in that place. And so as you put more money in, you are going up the funnel. You're spreading out your money to other types of traffic, to people who maybe aren't quite ready to purchase. And so you start to see things like your conversion rate drop and therefore your return on ad spend start to decrease. And so scaling is not linear for those reasons because there's funnel in place. And so you have to be very strategic at, okay, well, where are we going to scale next? And also, how are we going to tailor maybe our offer where we're sending traffic to this segment of traffic because it's at a different place than where we've been going after. And so we need to say things differently. We need to have different calls to action to really appeal to this segment of traffic and increase the ROI on the money that we're spending. And so, it gets complicated fast.
Yeah. So for people, again, another analogy, the way I heard it was, think of it almost like an archery bullseye, or a dartboard bullseye, where in the beginning, you're just trying to get profitable and you get profitable. And that means you found the center of the bullseye, so to speak. You found the center of the target. But as you spend more money because of and this comes from back in the day prior to the internet, magazine advertising. You would put an ad in a magazine, but what you would find is you get great results the first 2 months, 3 months, and then results would drop off. And the reason is that you sucked out all the buyers from that list and you would have to let it rest and let the magazine onboard new subscribers, and you'd have to find somewhere else to go fish. And you could rotate back there maybe once a year or something like that, but that's where you have to have a portfolio. And so it's kind of what he's saying is that if you just go from $5,000 to $10,000, what happens is now you're spending so much money, you're advertising so much, you're bleeding over the boundary of that dead center. So your results flatline a bit as well. And so this is where maybe you need more personalized entry points. This is an interesting concept. I don't know if you want to speak to this, but I worked with one of my first coaching clients when I got into business coaching was in my hometown. He was a moving company. And I was really surprised that this guy, I felt he was very sophisticated. I sat down with him and I was surprised to learn that he had one company, but it had 2 online presences, 2 websites, 2 Google business profiles, 2 phone numbers. And one was Frank the Mover, which was the premium moving service in town that everybody knew. And the other one was Move for Less, which was the cheapo, just throw it in a box on a truck and out we go. And, he said it was the same team. They had trucks with the logo and the brand name. They had white trucks, no logo, no brand name. They had the same forms. One had the letterhead, one had no letterhead. They had 2 phones in one office with the same lady answer, right? And it was just, but if you bought Move for, it wasn't a scam in any way, because if you went with Frank the Mover, you got like bubble wrap and you got the white glove service. And if you want Move for Less, it was just less. But what it was is for him is it was 2 specific personalized experiences, customer journey, so to speak, for the person based off of what they were looking to buy. And so that I think it speaks to kind of what you're saying. You were saying like it's a different funnel, or it's up the funnel, or you have to, it's a different target market. What would you recommend
100%.
starting out and struggling right now? Like they're like, okay, this sounds great. I feel a little overwhelmed. Maybe I don't have enough to go and hire an agency right away. What do I do?
Yeah, a couple of really practical tips for someone just getting started, not working with an agency. The first would be track as much as you can about what's happening after people are clicking on your ads. So you can use Google Ads conversion tracking on things like forms on your website. If you're placing purchases through your website, you could also work with a call tracking platform to track calls to your website. And that's going to be critical because A, it's going to tell you roughly how well your ads are performing if you're getting people reaching out to you because of your ads. And then more importantly, you want to track that back to the specific campaign, specific ads keywords in your account so you know which parts are working, which aren't. And that's how you optimize and improve performance over time. So tracking is super important. And then I'm going to say most people starting out, they're going to run what Google calls search campaigns, which is targeting keywords, showing text ads to people when they search on Google. And there's this thing called search terms in Google Ads, which, if you're new and you don't know what that is, that's the actual words that people type in to trigger your ads. And it's different than the keywords that you enter into your account and that you think Google is triggering your ads with. And so spend time in your search terms because you'll often find irrelevant things that are wasting your money. And you can add what's called negative keywords to keep those words from triggering your ads, which then saves you a lot of money and keeps your money focused on what's actually relevant to you.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah, because like I think what you're saying, there's an exact match and there's a broad match and there's all sorts of negative keywords. I had a guest
Yeah.
on our show probably 3, 4 times, Glenn Livingston. He used to be a market intelligence and even Google AdWords guru back in the day. Now he's doing
Yeah.
eating disorder stuff. But he talked about research he did, and he found out that there was a massive difference between search traffic, people who search for the word guinea pig versus guinea pigs. And the only difference one letter, the S. And it was one was people that were doing like a book report for school or something. They wanted the facts of where they're from and how long they live. The other one were parents. The guinea pig just died. The kid was asleep. They need to know where to buy a new one before their kid woke up. It was different psychological profile from the keyword that they took in. So, can you speak to typically how many money keywords does a business have? Like, I don't know if that's something that you can clearly articulate, but I'm curious because I know when I had my martial arts school, I think I had about 3 money keywords, 5 that probably were profitable total, and then the rest were further up the chain, so to speak. Can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, one of the interesting things with how Google has evolved over time is they've moved, I'm not going to say they've moved away from keywords, but they've layered on many, many things in addition to keywords. And so keywords are still a thing. You can still target keywords, but Google knows, look, somebody, like you said, one person looking for guinea pig, maybe looking to purchase a guinea pig. Another person may be looking for information about a book report. And so Google's watching, what else are you doing? What other searches are you doing? What other websites are you going to? What time of day is it? What time of device? And things like that to try to figure out, is your search for guinea pig relevant to this ad or completely irrelevant and you don't want to see an ad? And so when we're running campaigns these days, keywords are, one tool in the toolbox, so to speak. But then there's all sorts of stuff we're layering on top of that with things like what Google calls smart bidding, with leveraging, going back to tracking, with making sure that we're feeding Google, look, this is converting on our website, this isn't, so they can learn patterns and say, okay, when someone searches for this keyword at this time from this device, that's likely to convert. This time of this device over here, it's not. And so it's less about money keywords these days and more about having all this data layered onto the campaigns so that Google, using their machine learning and AI, is able to predict what's more likely to actually turn into a conversion for you.
And when do you think someone's ready? Like you already mentioned, it's about throwing gasoline on a fire. So if I'm launching a startup, do I run paid ads? Is that a good idea to do for testing? What kind of a budget does someone need to have? And is there a prescription for someone that's trying to get going?
Yeah. So for the startup question first, I'll say if you're a startup and you have some money to burn in testing, Google Ads can be a great testing opportunity because you can figure out way more quickly than in most other opportunities or most other marketing channels whether your offer is compelling to people. Because if you're brand new, like you don't have those business foundations set up yet. You don't know, do people care more for free trial versus free month or whatever? And so you can use advertising to quickly test and iterate and see conversion rates, as long as you know that that money you're spending is not going to be spent very efficiently because you're figuring these things out. So if you're a bootstrap startup and you don't have cash in the bank to figure things out, then it's probably not the best place to start. From a budget perspective, it's going to depend very much upon what type of business you are and how competitive your market is. But as a general rule of thumb, for most businesses, I would say have at least $2,000 per month that you are ready to spend on ad spend. And that's not going to put your business out of business if
Yeah.
it doesn't turn it into profit,
Yeah.
because it's going to take time to figure things out. Exactly. Yeah. You do not want Google Ads to be your Hail Mary. I've seen it work, certainly, but most of the time, you're just wasting that money. And so it's fuel for a fire that's working. It's not burning a candle in a prayer to hopefully be able to save your company.
I love that. So is there certain types of businesses Google is better for than others? Is there some businesses that just can't find customers on Google?
So a couple patterns, I would say. First of all, when we're talking about Google search, obviously Google search only works if someone is searching for something. So if you are selling something, if you're selling an impulse purchase $5 widget that people aren't searching for, but they see it, and when they see it, oh, it's cool, I got to buy it. Google search is not where you want to be. YouTube might be a great place because you're getting in front of people visually. And so there are parts of Google's ecosystem that could be great. But you've got to think through, are people searching for what I'm selling, or do I just need to push and get in front of them and make them aware of what I'm selling? Then price point is important as well. Google is not cheap. It's a very mature platform. It's a very saturated platform. So again, if you're selling a $5 widget and cost per click is going to be $1, well, that's probably not going to work. You're not going to make profit on that. Unless, going back to the lifetime conversation, that's a loss leader to get you access to a customer who you can then sell other things to over time. And then that might be a great opportunity for you. So price point / lifetime value, really important. Are people searching for it? And then competition level. There are some industries that are just so incredibly competitive that if you don't have a significant budget, it's probably not going to work for you. Personal injury lawyers, it's notorious for they're willing to spend pretty much whatever they need to spend on a click because there's so much potential value in a customer there. And so if you're a new local personal injury attorney and you're like, hey, I've got $1,000 a month to spend, probably shouldn't get into it because you might spend $300 on a single click. And there's no way you're going to make it work with $1,000 budget. So those are some of the patterns or criteria that I'd look at when deciding to get into Google Ads for a particular vertical.
And I wanted to ask about we talked a lot about the ads, and people may or may not know, but you can throw a lot of stuff in Google. It's going to ask you to give it a bunch of headlines and images and videos because it's going to try to mix and match and figure out the best combination. What about landing pages? Can you speak to, I guess, sorry, forgive me, I've done this a lot, but I have two questions. What should people be expecting to pay per sale? Which, is there a rule of thumb in terms of cost of what you're selling? And then the second one is about the land, where you send people to. I think that's something we should talk about a little bit because you can have great ads. I'll shut up, let you talk.
No, I'm really glad you brought up the landing page part, and definitely let's talk about that. To answer the first question first, as far as what should your cost per sale be, the answer to that is it depends on your numbers. So the businesses that are most successful with advertising business in general understand their numbers and figure out, based upon their lifetime value, what can they afford to spend to acquire a customer. And this is often what sets the winners apart from the losers, where if you can identify, hey, because of my lifetime value, let's say an HVAC company, if you're like, hey, I've got great processes in place. I know I get a customer. They're going to be a customer for 5 years. I'm going to come out and work on their air conditioning, keeping up to date, et cetera. They're worth $10,000 to me over the lifetime. Fantastic. Well, I can afford to spend X amount to acquire that customer. Right. Whereas HVAC company number B over here, they're like, yeah, we make $500 when they do a service call, and they don't have the processes in place to nurture that into a long-term customer. They can't spend $500 to acquire that customer. They could spend maybe $100. And company A is like, I can spend $1,000 because it's going to be worth it to me over time. So it completely depends upon your numbers, and you got to try to understand what your numbers are to figure out what is a profitable cost per sale going to look like for you.
And let's say somebody does the math. Does that mean once they know? Because it almost sounds like just make up a number and Google will meet you there. And you're also saying, though, at the same time, is it depends on who your competitors are, because they just might outbid you, and they're going to outbid you because they've got their numbers. But I mean, going back to my martial arts school, I
Yeah.
remember I was offering a free 30-day membership. And when people signed up, I gave them, I think it was about $150 worth of free gear, because that wholesale, my cost was something like $65. But I knew my lifetime customer value on average was $946. And on average, I collected $818 of that, because people would have delinquent payments, or they want to quit and a couple bills stack up that they didn't pay or whatever. But because I knew that on average, a new member was worth $818 for me, I was able to advertise a free month. And I had incentives for people to sign up before the month. But the competitors, they were just, oh, Daryl's just, he's going to drive himself into the ground. Like because it was a small town, there's a lot of talk. I wanted to speak to that. And I just want you to say, can you just pick any random number? Does the competition decide it? I mean, maybe there's not an answer to this.
Yeah.
You get what I'm trying to get to here?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so the way that Google works is, as you know, obviously, it's not a pure auction. Google has their finger on the scales very, very heavily. But it's an auction in the idea of that Google's looking at what people are willing to pay for a click on a particular search, and also the quality of the ad that you're going to serve. Because ultimately, they want people to click on your ad. So the more relevant that ad is to the person who searches, the more likely that person is to click on that ad. And so you don't always have to outbid your competitors if you are making more compelling ads that are more relevant to what people are searching for. And that's a way you could actually spend less than competitors, but get more clicks and better positioning, because Google's like, oh yeah, I'm going to make money from this, as opposed to competitors who are just throwing a bunch of money at the click, but don't have good ads. And so that's where there's a lot of kind of competitive opportunities to improve your performance. But at the end of the day, the targets that you set, whether you're explicitly setting them for Google and telling Google, like, here's the cost per lead I'm trying to achieve, or just a target you're setting for yourself as you optimize the campaigns, that's going to dictate how aggressive you can be in your bidding, which will impact how much traffic you can get, how high, up your ad might show when people search. And then it's also going to dictate how broad with your targeting you can be. Taking your example there, some of your competitors might be like, okay, well, hey, it works when I target someone who searches for, martial arts school near me, because that person is very likely to convert. They're ready. Awesome. And so I can afford to pay for that traffic. But they might find that when they go a little bit broader, someone searching for whatever, should I learn karate? Let's just make that up. Maybe that's not converting well for them, because they don't have a landing page we can talk about here that's built for that type of traffic. Whereas you, because you are smarter, more sophisticated, you're like, hey, this is someone who is higher in the funnel. They're not ready right now to go ahead and get my offer, but they're interested. And so if I take them to a landing page that educates them and says, hey, here's my book, 5 reasons why you might want to learn karate. Give me your email address and I'll send you this for free. And then you can start nurturing them. Then you can, over time, turn them into a customer and justify the money that you're spending to begin with. So I got a little bit of a rabbit trail on that response, but hopefully that speaks.
What he's talking about is lead to buyer ratio, the lead to buyer rate. So some people, they go to advertise, they're just like, hey, buy my thing. And it's an ad directly to the order form, and away you go. And that, for a lot of people, does work, but it doesn't work, because a lot of people aren't waking up going, I need this. Unless you're able to figure out how to catch people in the moment that they've established a need. We call it bleeding neck problem. If my neck is bleeding, I just need to stop the bleeding now. And that only often represents something like 3% of the market. There was a book called Blue Ocean Strategy, which is talking about meeting people further up the chain before they're in that bleeding neck scenario where now they need the solution. And so that's kind of what John's talking about here, whereas you have to kind of get savvy and understand the customer journey and what happened before and where else they're looking to find solutions. Now is easier than ever, because it used to cost like $1 million to put a bunch of people on the street with clipboards and do surveys. And now you can use free tools to get surveys. You can search Reddit and Facebook groups and use AI and all this to get you some intel. But at the end of the day, you still have to test and see what works. And so in the beginning, it may just be they're not ready to buy now, but you need to generate some leads prior. Like you said, the 5 reasons, 5 ways for whatever, because people are considering it. And that might be the way to get ahead of your competitors. Let's talk to landing pages now. I want to get into landing pages and AI. I have those on my list because I think those are 2 a lot of people spend a lot of time on the targeting and the ads and all that, and that's going great, but they're still not making money. And how do what's mission critical here? Where do you go?
Yeah. So many advertisers will spend, all day on the ad, trying to make the absolute best perfect ad, and they'll spend 5 minutes on the landing page.
Right.
And in many ways, it's the other way around. The ad is the tip of the iceberg. It needs to be relevant and get people to your page, but your page is where the sale happens. It's where you get to communicate everything that you need to communicate to people. And so landing page is crucial. And there's, a lot of things that I see missing for many, many landing pages out there. First of all, it's just a clear call to action. What is it that you want people to do? Often an advertiser might send people to their homepage, and it's like, okay, great. Well, you're telling me information about your business, but there's no offer. There's no call to action. I don't just want to know that you're an HVAC company that's been around for 25 years. I want to know that you have a free offer to come out and do a maintenance check on my air conditioning system, and that I can click this button to enter my address and sign up for that right now, or give a call, or whatever it may be. So you have to have a clear call to action. You have to tell people what it is you want them to do after they get to your landing page. You need to tell them what it is that you do. Again, don't take them to your homepage that doesn't actually say clearly in a headline, this is what the service is, or this is what they're looking for. So say what you actually do. Credibility elements are really important. Going back to the reviews that we talked about, yes, people do go and search for you to see who you are, but don't make them go put that time. Actually put your reviews on your landing page, put your credibility elements, put why people should trust you right there, and use reviews that answer people's questions in the words of your customers. So if you know that most people care about the speed with which something is done, put some reviews from people saying, this was so fast, they came out same day and fixed it, and so forth and so on. And that will answer their question without you having to say, we will come out same day.
You don't have to do an FAQ at the bottom. Instead, you've got, I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are all important. Video, again, is fantastic. If you can have video on your landing page, it can make a big difference in conversion rate, whether it be testimonials from customers, whether it be you, just a business owner, a small business owner. Hey, this is Bill from Bill's Heating and Plumbing. I am here to help you. Give me a call. One of our technicians will be out ASAP. Creating that human connection, things like that can just go a very long way.
Yeah, I think there's another element to this, and again, it goes back to we said at the beginning, throwing gas on a fire. And I am embarrassed. I've said this in a couple of interviews. I think the thing I'm most embarrassed or ashamed of in my career is how much time, energy, and money I've spent sending clicks to pages and then trying to track heat maps and read analytic reports, when if I had just got people on a phone or a Zoom call right away, I would have learned so much in 1 week that it took us months to figure out. It's not that you can't have a web page do the selling. Is that when you're trying to get it dialed in, there's two parts to this too. Going back to Glenn Livingston, I remember he was telling me about a focus group they did once for some company, and they had all these like 5 products on the table, and they did this rigmarole. They were there for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. At the end, he's like, all right, thanks everyone. Sally's got your check. She'll give them to you on your way out. And also I talked to the manager, and they said, you know what? You can actually take one of these home with you if you want. Just pick whichever one you want on the way out the door. And everything was a setup for that moment. All the questions because people will tell you what they think you want to hear. When at the end of the day, they were really going, which one do people want, despite the feedback? And so that's a catch-22 as well, right? So anyways, what do you think is going to happen with AI?
AI is, yeah, let's dig in. There's so many ways we can go. There's kind of two big areas we'll focus on. You've got efficiency, and you've got how it's actually changing, user behavior, people's behavior. So on the behavioral side of things, AI is changing how people search for information and solutions. People are more often going to things like ChatGPT to start their search for things. They're using the AI overviews that Google provides, and they're looking for different things because they have different expectation in the answers they can get. You see searches getting longer, there's more context because it's less keyword based. People know okay, they might be looking for information about guinea pigs, but instead of searching for guinea pigs and be like, okay, I'm looking for the top result that comes up on Google about that, they might actually ask their question, where can I buy guinea pigs? Or what is the best guinea pig to buy for, a 3-year-old boy, or whatever the case may be. And so I see actual search behavior changing in those ways.
Mm.
And there's still a ton of unknowns. There's, okay, who's going to win? How many of those people are gonna switch from Google to Chat GPT versus staying with Google versus using Google's new AI mode, things like that.
Right.
And then there's the question of how much additional search traffic is there going to be, because people now can get questions answered that they wouldn't have gone to a search engine previously to get answered. And then, of course, there's the question of how does this impact the advertising ecosystem? Because but not just the advertising too. I mean, organic as well, massively. If people are getting answers from ChatGPT or from the AI overview without going to someone's website, well, that's a big deal. I know if your website is predicated upon people actually coming to your website and taking action there. So it's an exciting world. It's dangerous. It's exciting. There's so much going on right now that we don't know. And kind of every day feels like a new day of, okay, what's next with the LLMs, with user behavior. And so it's a very quickly evolving world. And then on the flip side of that, from an efficiency standpoint, there's tremendous efficiency gains that people are seeing with AI. And I like the example you gave there of the focus group, because we're actually kind of doing this right now within our agency with the idea of AI. So first we ask people kind of where are they spending most of their time, our team members internally, and what tasks do they think AI can help them with? And so we've got these survey results. And next, what we're doing is we're actually spending time with each team member, sitting down and watching them go about their day. And I think we're going to find incredible difference between what they think they spend their time on and think AI will help them with versus, hey, you realize how much of your time you're spending on this? Let's use AI here. And I'm excited because I think we're going to see really significant productivity gains just from actually watching, not what they say they do, but what they actually do with their time, and then implementing AI in those areas to make it go faster.
So where and how do you think the paid advertising, I mean, if you have to look through a crystal ball 3 years from now, people that are coming and trying to do paid ads, obviously Google's using AI to try to match advertisers with buyers. How about the advertisers themselves? Or like we mentioned, the small business owner that's trying to get up and running. How and where are you guys using AI for highest impact that you're aware of?
I think that, first of all, I believe that advertising is going to come to the LLMs. I think the chat GPTs of the world are going to have to incorporate advertising. A, because there's just so much money they're leaving on the table by not doing it. And B, because you still have to have some engine for picking who comes up. If I search for the best restaurant near me, whether I do that on Google or whether I do that in LLM, something still has to predicate which of the 100 locations near me, which 5 of them the LLM is going to return. And advertising can be a great way, along with other quality factors, that LLMs can decide who is going to win those auctions, for lack of a better term. So I think you're going to see advertising come to the LLMs. I think you're also going to see a lot of changes in how content needs to be created online, because there's less of this idea of page authority where I need to get this one page to rank on the top of Google. With LLMs, they don't really care about your page. They're just looking for the best information. And so they're going deep within websites. Doesn't really matter what your page rank is. If they find helpful information that can inform them, they're going to put that into their results and hopefully give you the source. And so it's less about get this page to rank and more about make sure I've got fresh, unique, original, helpful content across my website that the LLMs can find and then source. And that should create a lot of opportunities, even for small businesses, where it's like, hey, there's no way that I could rank my page for best email marketing software going against all these competitors. But if I can write better content about this specific thing people are searching for related to email marketing, and the LLMs sees that as being more helpful than what the big guys have, well, then I could get that to actually come up in the LLM, and I could get a source for that. And so it's going to change content marketing, SEO, and the paid side of things as well.
Yeah, it reminds me of what Greg Glassman, the founder of CrossFit, said. He said that markets are ultimately unknown and unknowable. I'm paraphrasing here, but if I ask you how many people are looking to buy a car today, you can tell me keyword search traffic, foot traffic, but ultimately the real number is unknown, unknowable, and is constantly in flux. But everyone can acknowledge excellence. So if you just focus on solving a problem in an excellent manner, better than the rest, that can be your North Star. And that's kind of sort of what I'm hearing you say here, that just focus on doing good things and being the best at what you do, helping people, treating people with kindness and love, trying to make sure the arithmetic works so you can keep the lights on and provide the service to people, and then hire an agency like you guys, throw some gasoline on the fire. Now, this is sort of a selfish question, perhaps. Do you see AI content, AI generated landing pages, copy? Is any of that working? Is that favored? Is that unfavorable?
So what I'm seeing on the SEO side of things first, organic search engine optimization, I have a lot of concerns about really relying on AI generated content because we see the LLMs and Google themselves not liking that. And more than just not liking that, what they're looking for, again, is original content. It's new stuff that can inform them. And when you're using AI to generate content, inherently, it's grabbing information from what already exists. It's saying it differently, it's repackaging it, but it's not coming up with new insights. Or if it is coming up with new insights, they're probably wrong. You've got hallucinations and you got to look into that. And so there's still a place for what can I create new originally that doesn't already exist out there? And that's much more likely to get ranked by Google or whoever. From a landing page perspective, if it's less about I'm trying to rank and just more about, hey, I'm sending traffic from my ad to the landing page and I want people to convert, there's a lot of opportunities to use AI to help create content, structure it in an appealing way. You can work with different prompts to say, hey, help me write this content for this type of use case, this content for this type of person. It can be super helpful there. But again, you definitely can't leave out that human touch because a lot of that AI generated content tends to kind of look and sound the same, be too wordy, be not quite as emotionally compelling as if you add a little bit of that human sprinkle to it and be like, I'd say this a little bit differently here and there. And that's where things can really shine.
I think that's really powerful. John, this has been a great interview. I've got a couple of pages of notes. I do want to be respectful of your time. I know we're coming up on the top of the hour. Is there anything I haven't asked you about that I should have asked you about?
I think we covered some great ground, both for new advertisers as well as people who've been doing it a lot. And I liked your summarization of, yeah, at the end of the day, it comes down to first principles of running a good business. It's not about being hacked. What's the latest hack you can do? Like there's obviously tactics that go into things, but at the end of the day, people who win over the long run are running good businesses built on solid metrics, solid principles. And then, as we've said ad nauseum, advertising is fuel on that fire.
And I want to ask one last question because we haven't touched on this at all, but even the good people that are doing a sincere effort can get caught up in bureaucracy sometimes. And Google, like you said, is a very mature platform. And it's almost got to the point where, I forget where this came from, but in a democracy, it's innocent until proven guilty. And in communism, it's show me the person, I'll find you the crime. And Google is almost at this point where if you get on their radar for anything, you can get your account suspended and flagged. Can you talk about it a little bit? Like that's such a pain point for people when it happens. Can you just wax poetic for me on that? Why does it happen? What do people need to do? How do you help with that? Can you?
Yeah, I could talk for hours about this, so I will try to be circumspect here. But like you said, suspensions are a real problem in the Google ecosystem. So Google is trying to run a clean platform. They don't want people clicking on ads that violate policies, that lead to malware, so forth and so on. And so they have all sorts of policies in place about what you can and can't advertise, how you can and can't advertise. And they have all sorts of automation in place as well to look for things that they think could be a problem and then flag your account. And a lot of advertisers kind of have what I would say is a common sense assumption, which is, hey, if I'm just trying to do the right thing and Google sees a problem, they'll tell me what to do to fix it. I'll fix it. They'll keep taking my money. We'll move on. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work that way because Google has to operate at such scale that once they flag you and what they call suspending your ad account, like you said, you are guilty until proven innocent. And it can be incredibly hard to reinstate your ad account. And that means you can't run ads with Google until you fix that, which is devastating for a lot of businesses. And this happens to so many more advertisers than you would think. I think close to 40 million Google Ads accounts were suspended last year in 1 year. And a lot of those were people who should have been suspended, scammers, so fantastic. But tons of legitimate advertisers also get caught up in that net. And so we've been working for over a decade with helping businesses through this type of issue. So often people get suspended, They'll say, I don't know what to do. Maybe they'll try to appeal things with Google. They won't get anywhere. And they'll reach out to us and they'll work with us and we'll dig in to figure out what actually went wrong, which of Google's many policies was probably violated. We'll help them fix those things. We'll help them get everything into good standing with Google and then work through Google's appeal process to try to get them back online with Google. It's hard. It's a slog. It is a nightmare when you're a business who's been impacted by this. But it's also been really fulfilling for us here at StubGroup because we've helped thousands of businesses to fix suspensions, to stay compliant with Google's policies. And it feels really good when you can go to a business owner who's, in many cases, literally facing having to lay off staff or sometimes even go out of business because so much of their business is dependent upon Google, and be able to say, hey, we fixed this problem. You're back online with Google. And now let's be really careful moving forward to not violate their policies again.
I love that. John, you've been so helpful. If people have questions, if they want to reach out, if they want to learn more, where should they get in touch?
Yeah, so two places, stubgroup.com, find more information about us and you can reach out through there. And then also we put out a lot of free content through our YouTube channel. So search StubGroup on YouTube, subscribe there. And there's all sorts of free videos that you'll get to watch there.
So that's StubGroup, STUB as in boy, group, GROUP. Go check out stubgroup.com or go to YouTube, put in Stub, STUB, GROUP there. John, thank you so much for coming and sharing your knowledge so openly, knowing you've got your own direct reports, your own following, your own channel, your own children that are asking for your attention. Thank you for coming and sharing with my audience and I so we can all do better.
Daryl, thank you so much for having me.